Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Stephen Toole, the Chief Marketing Officer with Avanan, the cloud security platform, and with me today is my colleague, Chris Isbrecht, and we're going to be taking you through some of the security risks and vulnerabilities of Google Apps, and Gmail. We'll talk to you about some of the ways you can protect your users from these threats today. If you have questions throughout, please feel free to chat those in using the questions tool underneath your toolbar. I'm happy to take questions as they come in. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So as you can see here from this slide, the adoption of Google Apps is growing very rapidly. It's behind Office 365 to a certain degree, but it's far ahead of many other SaaS applications. This is by public companies. And so it's definitely creating a whole new environment in terms of security for hackers to target companies moving to Google applications, which is why we're seeing in the next couple of slides here a tremendous rise in the types of threats, the recurrence of threats that are happening just in the last couple of years, with millions and millions of unique variants of malware being sent to users using SaaS applications. 600 increase in email attachment malware attacks versus URL just in the last couple of years, now up to 570 million and counting unique variants. So this is a very striking slide, and somebody in a position such as yours should be very aware of this. And the other troubling fact is that almost all malware hashes are seen for less than a minute. In fact, most malware is only seen once. So trying to keep up with that with signature-based solutions is basically a very difficult task. We're also seeing a huge increase in ransomware attacks. 5 times increase in attacks in just the first half of 2016, and half of malware is some type of ransomware variant. We're also seeing, according to recent statistics, that half of all U.S. companies have experienced some type of ransomware event, and a third of them lost revenue. I'm not sure if you saw, we did some research in June this year on the Cerber ransomware attack, which affected millions and millions of SaaS mail users, and primarily they were Office 365 users, but this was a huge, huge attack, and Cerber ransomware has resurfaced in recent months with different variants. So I'm not sure if you're seeing ransomware at your organizations, but it's certainly on the rise for sure. This CNN article came out earlier this year, estimating $200 million in the first 3 months of this year alone in ransomware extortions, estimated to top $1 billion in 2016. So that's the some of the bad news, and the fact that folks using SaaS mail such as Gmail and Office 365 tend to be much more exposed than folks that still have their mail in the server room. Phishing attacks is another huge increase there. You can see the white bar chart in just 2016 with 3x increase in phishing attacks than any other period. Almost all of the enterprise breaches in 2015 were the result of spear phishing attacks, according to a Verizon study. And the largest chunk of those attacks are for cloud, file, and mail services. So, and being here in the DC area, I did a presentation recently at George Mason University, and their own research. They have a paper, there's the URL right there, estimating phishing attacks 2 years ago in 2014 to cost more than $4 billion a year. So these are some additional striking statistics. The sad thing is that 30% of, according to a Verizon study, 30% of phishing messages were opened by the target across all campaigns. So despite the fact that we try to educate our users, we try to make them more aware of phishing attacks, there's still a huge percentage that are opening the messages, and furthermore, what's even scarier is that more than 1 in 10 are actually clicking on the attachment or link that enables that phishing attack to succeed. So that's a very, very troubling statistic. And the targets in 2016, again, according to that Verizon report, by far and above what they're after is your user's credentials. So the ID and password for your Google, your Gmail, Google Drive, all of those things. Because once they have those credentials, they can do pretty much anything they want, as you know. So this is just a diagram showing, that once they have that phishing attack launched, they can install malware on the user's devices, on wherever they want, have access to the desktop, complete access to the email account, complete access to Google Drive, and all of the users' secured accounts, which is really scary stuff. Cornell University has a very good collection of phishing email examples on their website, their security website, and this is one of them from their site, which you look at this and you go, why would anybody fall for this? This is absolutely horrible. I mean, sure, it has the Cornell logo and it says it's from Cornell Security, but there's so many typos, grammatical errors, just you'd really have to be very gullible or trusting individual to fall victim to an email such as this, but yet they're actually doing it. And as I was talking to Chris before we got on this call, I mean, imagine if they actually just cleaned this up a little bit and used the basic spell check program and something else to make it even more believable. If anybody on this call got this email, we would know right away. But unfortunately, our users just don't have that same level of awareness and skepticism when it comes to receiving a phishing email like this. And of course, this is a very classic example of, we need to verify your email account. Click here and re-enter your password. And of course, the link is sensitized with the user's email address so that it auto-populates their email address when they go to verify it on a fake verification page. And they put in their email address, and now they've just given up their credentials. I figured since Cornell was bold enough to have such a strong anti-phishing position with all these examples of phishing, no offense to Cornell, I just wanted to see how easy it would be for somebody to scrape actual email addresses of Cornell faculty. So by a very simple Google search of the word professor and then in quotes at cornell.edu, page 1 gave me all of these faculty email addresses, which of course a hacker could use to create a false account, a false email account on behalf of any one of these faculty members, and send an email to any of the other faculty members as if it was, basically a spoofed account, saying, oh, hello, Professor Christensen. I just got this email. I'm forwarding this to you from our IT department, asking for us all to verify our passwords. That would be a very, very simple attack. It doesn't really take any skill. Once you put up a fake password verification page, you've got their credentials, and then you can log in as them and basically take over their email accounts and continue to send emails from each other from their actual live accounts. My premise with this example is that phishing and cybercrime has become the new Uber, that it's now easier than ever for any average Joe to spin up a cybercrime business and probably make a better living than they could if they were an Uber driver. You know, because Uber, you need a car and a phone. To become a cyber criminal, all you need is a computer and access to the internet. And that's the sad state of affairs, and that's what makes our jobs more difficult, because it's just become so easy to launch a cyber attack, especially on users with SaaS email. You're probably aware of the recent DNC attack, the Democratic National Committee, or the Clinton campaign attack, which was a very, very similar attack. Somebody sent an email to members of the Clinton campaign staff asking them to verify their Gmail passwords. The link was a bit.ly link with their email address embedded in it, so that when they went to the fake Google page, it auto-populated with that staffer's name and their actual DNC email address. And of course, all then the user has to do is put in their password, and they've just basically granted complete access to all of their credentials, which can then be used to harvest even more credentials, because now you actually have, you're taking over as Tom Smith and can send any email, reply to any email that he has received saying, oh, thanks, by the way, we're supposed to validate our passwords, here's the link. And that would be, a very, very easy attack, and that's what's happened. Despite the fact that the Clinton campaigns raised over $500 million in campaign funds, a simple attack like this is really a cakewalk. So here's another striking fact, that 92% of all hacking attacks begin with email. 13% of companies are using cloud-based email like Google Mail, Gmail, and Office 365. But those companies are 3 times more likely to have their security breached by using cloud email, which is really scary. And here's part of the reason. As I said earlier, traditionally, before we went to cloud mail, you had a closed system. You had all sorts of security in your data center, on your mail server, etc. And it was very difficult for a hacker to know whether or not their attacks were actually going to get through to you, because they had no visibility into what security you were using. Fast forward to today, you're all out there with using Gmail in the cloud. Quite frankly, a user has a test bench to see what the native security in Gmail is effective and ineffective at catching. So they can literally create a test bench with their own Gmail account and keep attempting to send malicious attachments, phishing scam links, etc., until, eureka, I found something that Gmail at Google is not stopping. Therefore, I happen to know that XYZ company is using Gmail. Ergo, if I send this piece of malware, this file attachment, or this phishing link through to any of those users, I am guaranteed 100% that that is going to get through, because I just sent it to myself in my own test account, and Google didn't stop it. And that's why it's become so much easier to launch an attack on SaaS mail users, and why, if you're using Gmail or Office 365, you really need more than just the native security that's built in. You had it in your data center, but you need to also bring it with you over to your cloud email applications. And of course, only the worst malware gets through. So you can test this yourself to see what malware gets through to your own users or to a test account. It's very simple. And when it comes to Google Drive, it's also very, very easy for your users to inadvertently drag a confidential or sensitive file into the wrong folder, or inadvertently change the sharing settings so that, a file that they put in a folder is now shared with the world, discoverable through anyone searching the web. How do you control that? How do you keep your confidential information from getting out? How do you keep your sensitive information like PII and HIPAA compliance regulated information from getting shared with the world? When you've got hundreds or thousands of users, quite frankly, aimlessly and recklessly putting things out on Google Drive, potentially shared with the world. And of course, if you think that it's up to Google to provide security, you're sadly mistaken. If you read the EULA on Gmail and Google Drive, they're responsible for security pretty much up to the application layer. Okay, so runtime, middleware, OS, virtual network, HV, server storage, physical network, etc. The rest is up to you, the people and the data. There's no claims of security whatsoever by Google or Microsoft. That is completely in your hands. If the slides that I've already shown you haven't been a wake-up call, it's time you really took a close look at what exposure is affecting your users right now. Or if you're only thinking of going to Gmail and Google Drive, it's not a bad thing. It's very powerful. We're not here to bash Microsoft or Google or anything else. They're very good at what they do, okay? But what they don't do is security. Google's not a security company. Microsoft is not a security company. They don't claim to be. They don't want to be, okay? That's why there are security companies, and that's your job, is to put the security in place to protect your users and your private company information. So everything else is up to you. Insider threat, phishing, credential loss, malware, data leakage, data sanitization, encryption, compliance. If you think that Google and Microsoft are handling that, it's just simply not true. And that's where we come in. So I'm going to turn things over to my colleague, Chris Isbrecht, at this time. He's going to talk to you a little bit about our platform and how we can help you secure your users and your data sitting out there in Gmail and Google Drive. Chris?
Okay, thanks, Stephen. So yeah, we'll switch gears a little bit and talk about the platform and how we can help you with our on-demand platform to solve some of the issues and really address the concerns of your data being stored within the cloud service providers, where they're obviously going to protect the cloud resources, but you're really on your own to protect the data that's going to sit within the cloud. Our platform is on demand. It's a cloud-based system. It is a dedicated system per customer, so it really gives us a lot of flexibility here from a storage standpoint. We're not a shared tenant model. We're not commingling data in any way. So it really does play very well in the highly regulated industries like healthcare and financial services. Lots of security controls in place that give us the flexibility to not only integrate with all of the best-of-breed cloud providers, but to help us build a best-of-breed security stack and really help you address those concerns around malware, zero-day protection, data leak protection, phishing attacks within the cloud. So we're going to take you through a series of slides here to lay out the case for the platform, and then we're going to jump into a live demonstration and actually walk you through some examples here within the platform itself. So the way the platform works, we're going to give complete visibility into the Google environment, Microsoft, Amazon, lots of flexibility here for us to get real-time access to data within the cloud. And then what we've done there to really help protect that information is build out a best-of-breed security stack that has over 60 different security vendors and tools within this umbrella. So it gives us the ability to instantly provision these services within our cloud and gives us, again, a lot of flexibility here to build a defense in-depth strategy where we're not going to advertise to the world what we're using from a security standpoint. Within our program, we are not a proxy, we're not an inline solution, we're not changing your MX records and advertising to the world what you're doing from a security standpoint. So you'll see here as we go through the demo, we're able to build out a best-of-breed stack that it could include Checkpoint, Palo Alto, Symantec, McAfee, and the ability for us to run against multiple tools at the same time. So we can go through and build that stack and make sure that we've got the best coverage that you could possibly have without actually advertising that to the world. Just a quick example here. So if we look at the Gartner Magic Quadrant for all of these different security tools, we've got the ability here to give you that coverage. And really our goal is to help you extend these traditional tools that were on the corporate network. We're going to bridge the gap and give you the ability to run these tools against your cloud-based services, whether you start with email or file shares, instant messaging services. We've got the ability to automatically enable this stack within our program. In less than 5 minutes, we can gain direct access to the SaaS platforms and then start applying these security tools to those environments. So we don't really need to be experts, or our customers don't need to be experts, in Checkpoint or FireEye or Symantec, McAfee. Our tools are going to be enabled within a single pane of glass here, and gives you the ability to enable those tools and protect the environment without necessarily being an expert in all the different disciplines and different security tools that we've plugged into the program. Our approach is a little bit unique in the fact that we're leveraging publicly available APIs, both for the cloud-based services, which gives us continual visibility into those environments. We can see emails, attachments, files that are being shared. So continual visibility and the ability there to do historical scans of the SaaS environments. So the ability for us to not only protect you going forward, but we can also look and do some forensics, looking backwards around any attacks that took place. If there's malware in the environment that might be continually affecting people, we've got that direct API level integration that gives us that visibility into the environment. And then a lot of the security tools now, we do have API level access to provide scans and provide protection there. So really two different models. From a security standpoint, we'll either provision those products within our AWS container, or we'll leverage publicly available APIs there as well. All seamless to our customers and all provided within a single dashboard and a single pane of glass for management of the environment. Okay. So what that really means for your end users is we're able to leverage these cloud-based systems, leverage their native capabilities and productivity tools without any change of interaction from an end user standpoint. So if you're leveraging Google and the G Suite for productivity, we're not a proxy, we're not putting agents on the endpoints, we're not going to affect that experience in any way. So we're leveraging the native productivity tools and able to layer the security in behind the scenes. We've got capabilities here to do virtual inline proxies where we can inspect traffic. We can make intelligent decisions around policy-based enforcement of blocking or quarantining or removing permissions from files and attachments. But it's going to be all done without any interaction from an end user. All the protection is provided within the SaaS environment. And again, no direct interaction with the end user. Deployments from our side can be less than 5 minutes to gain visibility and turn on that entire best-of-breed security stack without any interruption or disruption of service from an end user standpoint. Okay. So really what winds up happening, we've got the ability on the left-hand side of the screen here to integrate with all your best-of-breed SaaS platforms, and then across the top you see our entire security stack. So we've got the ability to build that defense in-depth program, multiple best-of-breed providers there across everything from your antivirus to anti-phishing, zero-day malware protection from a sandboxing, artificial intelligence, machine-based learning. So the ability here for us to build out that best-of-breed stack, and we'll show you in the demo. Literally within 5 minutes or less, we can have access to these environments and start protecting them going forward. Just to give you a representation here of what the traffic flow would look like. Our integration from an API standpoint, we'll plug directly into the Google, the Microsoft, the Amazons of the world. That's going to give us visibility at the source to any files, folders, users, permissions across the SaaS platform. And it gives us the ability then to kind of bridge the gap to that best-of-breed security stack. The ability for us to extend a best-of-breed stack that might be in place already for the large enterprise, or the ability for small and medium customers to introduce best-of-breed products, and help build that stack for the new SaaS providers. So again, no interaction from an end-user standpoint. We're going to help protect those files at the source. The ability to scan, take actions, quarantine, and lock down that information before it ever reaches the end user. Also gives us lots of advantages here to be able to scan information that flows directly between users. We're not a proxy, we're not an MTA, which gives us an advantage there. The traffic between corporate users can be scanned. We can look for sensitive information, malware, phishing attacks that might take place within the environment, and then certainly from the outside world. So a very efficient approach for us, and again, gives us a very layered approach to security, leveraging best-of-breed providers. And this is just another representation. So in the portal itself, lots of great reporting tools for us to prove the different layers of protection, and we can show you how adding multiple security tools helps us in a coverage model to make sure that we're catching everything. So a traditional antivirus system that's signature or heuristics based is going to catch a certain level of attacks, but we tend to find as we start to put more predictive capabilities, machine-based learning, artificial intelligence, actual threat emulation on top of these programs, our coverage rates can get to nearly 100% within our model, leveraging these best-of-breed technologies, and then also continually evolving and adding new programs. So with a new release from our side, we're able to plug in those best-of-breed providers very quickly into the model and give you new protection that wasn't available before, again, without announcing to the world what we're doing from a security standpoint. So the ability to leverage all those best-of-breed names, do it within a single portal, and give you that layered defense approach. Just a quick example here. So, phishing is certainly one of the most prevalent topics that we talk with customers about today. Just to show you some of the power of our solution, we do provide what we call a virtual inline protection capability. So we're not inline and it's not a proxy, but we do have the ability to quarantine and scan emails and attachments before they're delivered to the end user's mailbox. So it gives us the ability with these best-of-breed tools to look for things like phishing attacks, spear phishing, whale attacks, any fraudulent intent from an email standpoint. Allows us to strip those things that might be fraudulent from an end user, and then deliver that message without the malware, the fraudulent intent to the end user itself. So it gives us a lot of flexibility here in the model. Again, very efficient. We're not putting hardware or virtual appliances on the network. Everything is done within the cloud solution with the direct integration from an API standpoint, but gives us lots of power here to affect and make sure that we're blocking anything that could be malicious from an end user. This is the phishing example, would also be true for malware or anything else that was malicious out to the cloud provider. Okay. So next we're going to transition and give you a quick demonstration of the platform itself. So I'm just going to switch over here and we'll get logged into the console. Okay, Stephen, can you see the screen there?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, looks good, Chris.
Okay, great. So we'll talk just a little bit about the initial setup of the program. We like to say that we've got the initial setup and configuration down to a period of less than 5 minutes to get you up and running. Really, the most complicated thing that we'll do is run you through a quick start guide that's going to help us enable any of the SaaS apps that you want visibility to. We've got really the ability to tie into those public APIs. If I hit the configure button here, it's a very simple process for us to go out and authorize through a marketplace app with Google to enable those APIs. The only information that we would need here is the global admin account from a Google standpoint, and that's really going to unlock the APIs for us to gain that initial visibility. We're never storing your admin credentials. It's a token-based approach from an authentication standpoint that never allows us to store that information, but does unlock with a token-based approach for us to gain that direct visibility into your environment. So the ability to do that across the board for all the best-of-breed SaaS providers that we've got access to. The next step here would be to decide what we're going to do from a security standpoint. So this is where you'll see the best-of-breed approach, over 60 different providers here from a security standpoint. Integration with all the leading SIM vendors. We've got some real nice shadow IT capabilities that we'll dig into. You'll see the sandboxing solutions with Checkpoint and Palo Alto, predictive malware with Cylance and Solgate, data leak prevention with some best-of-breed providers, and really gives us the ability, if I hit the play button on any of these solutions, it's going to automatically provision those services and immediately allow us to start scanning and take advantage of those products. So we're not building servers, we're not running anything on the corporate network. It's an on-demand solution that gives you those best-of-breed tools here in a single pane of glass immediately through our platform. You'll see all the antivirus providers, so the ability for us to very quickly and easily enable that best-of-breed security stack. And essentially what you'll wind up here with is the screenshot that we showed before, integration with all your SaaS providers, and then the ability to decide how we're going to protect that environment with these best-of-breed solutions. And literally it's as easy as turning on and off the software switches and enabling those services within our product. Okay. So that's the initial configuration to get you going. We're going to do an initial scan, which will go back and look at all of the historical information within the environment, and then continual visibility and scanning will start really from day zero within our product being enabled. If we take a look at the main dashboard here, I'll walk you through some of the results that we found within this test environment. So on the initial dashboard here, you're going to see the aggregate of all the SaaS providers and all of the security tools. So this is going to give you a quick glance of what the environment looks like and any findings that we've got here. From a DLP standpoint, from a malicious standpoint, we can customize all of the info boxes on the screens here. So if customers are interested in data leak prevention and they want to have a quick glance, of any violations within the portal. We can completely customize everything that we present, the alerts and the alarms, the feedback, and the workflows here from an alarm standpoint. So lots of flexibility here to customize and bring information that's relevant for specific customers into the interface here. From here, we can get a little bit more specific into the individual dashboard. So this is the Gmail dashboard. You'll see some predefined queries across the top in the info boxes. Again, lots of flexibility there to drill in and show very specific information. You'll see the entire security stack here across the bottom with the ability for us to drill in and see specific threats and specific security tools within the program. Here I'll give you a quick example. So this is all the results that came back from the Checkpoint Sandblast threat emulation program. We'll see a summary report here of all of the attachments, and then I've got the ability to drill directly into these files. I can see how that entire security stack is performing. You'll see here that typical antivirus solutions cleared the file. But when it was run through an emulation sandbox, we did find some threats. Got the ability with Checkpoint to drill in and actually see the emulation report. So this is going to call out all of the suspicious activity, any affected registry keys or files that we've seen within the program. You'll also see the end user screenshots as well. So if an end user were to go through and run this program, this is the interface that they would see on the machine. So it gives us an in-depth capability here to understand what happens when these files are executed, and then allows us to go through and make some intelligent decisions here about quarantining and locking down these files. So the ability to do things like quarantine, encrypt. We could also set up automated policies here. So in the summary report or in the query, I've got the ability to set policies. So if I wanted to set an automated action here, I've got the ability to quarantine. I can encrypt with the Checkpoint program. I've got interfaces out to other SIM vendors if we want to kick off syslog messages. So lots of capabilities here for us to customize and set automated policies in more of a set it and forget it fashion. Makes it the ability for us to really manage and quarantine and lock things down without interaction to the portal. Can set up an automated end-to-end workflow here, so you're not actually logging in to take any of these actions in the program. Okay. I'll give you another quick example here. So lots of best-of-breed choices from a data leak prevention standpoint as well. So you'll see the violations here. If I jump in, I'll give you just a quick example. So you'll see the summary report here. You'll see the matched rules for the information that we were able to scan for. We can scan the body of the email. We can also scan attachments that come through. So again, if I click on the file, it's going to take me to an overview. It's going to show me the security stack, which providers actually found the violations. And then again, we can take automated actions from here. We can kick off alerts and alarms, quarantines, remove permissions from these files based on customers' policy and what information might be sensitive based on their industry. Okay. The last piece that I'll show here is the phishing detection. So we've also got some best-of-breed capabilities here to scan emails to look for emails that might have a bad reputation, any fraud, impersonation at the domain level, at the user level. So again, gives us the ability to do that full scan, understand when we have issues. We can show the fraudulent links and provide some more information about the threat that would be posed to these emails and if they're actually executed or clicked on. And then again, all the automated actions here if we want to lock down end users from receiving these emails. They can be completely locked down, quarantined, so they don't actually make it to the end user's inbox. Okay. We'll give one more specific example here. So within Google Drive, similar API level integration here. I can see users, files, folders, and lots of flexibility here to understand, if users are sharing information, if we've got outgoing files, if we've got sensitive information that's being passed through these files. We can show you permissions. We can show you, examples where anyone with a specific link, could download these files. So these are the types of things that we want to focus in on. If I drill into the file here, you'll see it's actually a malicious file that was caught, and it's also being shared with anybody that's got the ability to get to this link. So this is where we can set automated policies, automated firewalls, so that information is not moving between different groups of users, or if it's malicious or sensitive, we can lock down the permissions and make sure that information is not going to be shared or moved. You'll see here some additional query policy actions. So the ability for us to do things like remove permissions, lock down the shares, remove global access or permissions to files and folders. So lots of flexibility, again, to set automated policies and lock down the environment, so there's not a risk of that information being shared, whether it's sensitive or malicious information. Okay. And I'll just give you one more quick example here from a data leak prevention standpoint. So we can track the movement of that data. We've also got the ability to look for sensitive information that might be found within these file shares. So just a real quick example here. So this is a file that's got, looks like social security numbers. So you'll see the checkpoint founded in this case, and then again we can go through and set up all of our automated policies and lockdown capabilities on the information, and whether it's being shared or not. Okay. You'll also see similar capabilities here. So we're focusing the webinar on Google today, but you'll also see support for Office 365 for most of the popular file shares, the Box, the Drop boxes, and even support for some of the instant messaging and communications programs like Slack. So the ability here for us to have a very broad support for not only the security stack, but for the SaaS platforms, and the ability to bring this all together for you in a single pane of glass and a single window from a management standpoint. Okay. Two last things that I want to touch on before we wrap up. The last piece here is our Shadow IT discovery. So we've got a real nice tie-in to Google email, as well as Office 365. Gives us the ability to search through the email environment and look for things like registrations to unsanctioned SaaS platforms. So if you're a Google Drive customer and you're paying for accounts, and that's the corporate standard, we can do things like track registrations to Box or Dropbox, and give you visibility from a corporate email standpoint on what's being shared and whether end users are going out and using unsanctioned SaaS applications. We've also got the ability to bring in firewall logs, DNS logs, and bring in third-party sources from the corporate network to correlate and look for results from that standpoint. But really gives you a nice control to understand whether people are using the corporate sanction tools or maybe going outside and sharing information that they shouldn't be from a Shadow IT standpoint. The last thing that I'll touch on is our alert workflow. So the ability for us to completely automate all of the events that come in through the system. So the ability here to kick off alerts and alarms. We can feed third-party security and event management systems. The ability within our single pane of glass to be able to manage and automatically assign events to your security personnel. We can leave status, we can leave comments for those events as they come through the system. So it really gives you not only a single pane of glass for visibility and control, but also a really nice workflow here to manage any of those events that come in and take automated actions against them.
Very cool, Chris. Thanks for the demo. And that kind of wraps up the formal part of the presentation and demonstration. We've got a few minutes left for questions. If anybody has any questions, feel free to type those in. In the meantime, what I wanted to do was mention that we have a free vulnerability assessment that we are offering to everybody on today's webinar. And basically, it means you'd get on a call with Chris and someone else from our team, and we would take you through some of the specific risks and vulnerabilities that you and your specific organization are likely experiencing right now today, whether it's in Gmail, Google Drive, or any of your other SaaS applications, to give you just a much better perspective of, quite frankly, what the hackers are seeing with regard to your SaaS applications and your users, and help you see, where you need to really focus your attention in terms of, battening down the hatches, so to speak, and exposing those vulnerabilities for you to address. One question just came in, Chris, about latency issues. Are there any latency issues? Good question, Chris.
Yep, so with the API approach, it does give us a real-time capability. Typically where we would see delays from a scanning standpoint is really based on the technology that we're using. Typically with a signature-based or heuristics-based AV engine, it's a couple seconds worth of response times. As we start to get into things like full emulations, that's where we could see a minute or two delay as we run through and do complete emulation in Sandbox. With the virtual inline proxy capability, it does give us the ability to put email into a holding tank while those scans take place. So in a lot of cases, it's a couple second delay. Worst case, it's a minute or two as those full emulations take place within the platform.
Very good. So once again, folks, if you're interested in that security assessment, if you just reply to the email that you got earlier with a reminder about the webinar, we can get you set up with that. I'll get you channeled to the right folks. Again, we hope you enjoyed the presentation today. Hope you learned a little bit about Google and Gmail security risks and vulnerabilities, and a completely new way that you can protect your users and your information from getting into the wrong hands. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and give you a few minutes of your afternoon back. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and I want to wish everybody a great day. Thanks again, Chris, for all your help and the demonstration. Really appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
All right, have a good day. Take care.